This group needs about 5 hours just by themselves, and it would be awesome. So why don't we do this? I'd love for each of you to introduce yourselves while our audience introduces themselves via live chat. Robert, you want to start?
Sure, I'd be happy to start. I'm Robert Rose. Well, by day anyway, I run around the planet when we're not in lockdown and actually work with companies to help them with their content strategy and content operations strategy. I'm also the chief strategy advisor for the Content Marketing Institute, which a few of you may be familiar with, and get to Cleveland every year to actually to celebrate Content Marketing World. And then, yeah, I've written a couple of books and all of that.
Couple books, no big deal. Kelly?
Hi, yeah. So I'm Kelly. I'm a Californian living in Europe. I'm in beautiful Switzerland, and we're out of lockdown now. So we're a little bit of a step ahead. And I'm newly the appointed Director of Digital Transformation and Strategy and Services for a brand called Sunstar. It's a global healthcare brand, oral care brand, and I'm responsible for the consumer goods section. So I'm really excited to be here and talk B2B and B2C, because I get to dabble in both now, which is really interesting.
Yeah, that's challenging. Erin?
Hi, everyone. I am Erin. I am a content marketing manager with Zendesk, which is a customer-first CRM company based in San Francisco, California. I am in Madison, Wisconsin. We have a lovely office here. And I'm just thrilled to be here. I've been, throughout my career, a copywriter, a journalist, a little bit of everything in between. And at Zendesk, I help with the blog and all kinds of other content strategies. So I'm just really excited to be part of the panel.
Awesome. And before we get to Andy here, I do want to remind our audience that you can use the hashtag 5 hours of content. You can tag Semrush. You can find any of our panelists. Andy will also be taking over hosting duties at the end of this session. Andy, I'm going to turn it over to you. Why don't you introduce yourself, and then we can jump right into your presentation.
Thank you, Casie, for being here. You've been on for how long now? This is like 2.5 hours?
Maybe 2 hours.
3 hours? Okay.
Going strong.
It goes so fast. Everything's so good.
Yeah, happy to take the baton. Andy Crestodina, Orbit Media Studios. We're a web development company here in Chicago. So this is year 20. And so the focus of my career in that time has been in website planning, but I've almost been doing SEO and analytics as long as that. And since 2007, I've been writing and publishing and teaching and speaking, which is something I'm well suited to because I love to teach. And that's what I get to do today. So yeah, I guess we're going to jump in, guys. Are you ready for this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I know. We had, I've been looking forward to this. This is a combination of research and practical takeaway how-to tips specifically for an SEO community like ours here in Semrush. This is about the intersection between thought leadership and SEO. So while I'm sharing, I'm in presentation mode, so I can't see you guys. So Casie or anyone, just jump in, please interrupt and make this a conversation as much as we can. I want to use this as an opportunity to better define, I hope, the term thought leadership, because I'm not really excited or impressed by what I see out there. This is what Edelman calls it. Free deliverables organizations or individuals produce on a topic they know a lot about and feel others can benefit from having their perspective on. That sounds like the definition of content marketing. I can't tell the difference. It says it does not include content primarily focused on describing a service or product. Obviously, it's not an ad, but that is the definition of content marketing. I like to try to think of thought leadership as being held to a higher standard. Even Wikipedia doesn't really go too far. They just say an individual or firm that's recognized as an authority in a specialized field whose expertise is sought after and rewarded. Kind of a lot about the last session from Lee. My little thesis for you guys is that the thought leader is at the intersection of the personal brand, taking a stand, and having expert insights, which after noodling over this for a while, I realized that aligns like perfectly with back in college, Aristotle's 3 modes of persuasion. Maybe you remember the 3 modes of persuasion: ethos, pathos, and logos, as in credibility, emotion, and reason. And if you put labels on those as people, you can think of them as the influencer, the key opinion leader, and the subject matter expert, right? This is, credibility, strong opinion, and expertise. But if you're 2 out of 3, I don't think that qualifies you as a thought leader. There are a lot of people who have an audience and have strong opinions, but they're not experts. Those people are sometimes just strong, opinionated people, like might be just a jerk. Someone who doesn't actually know what they're talking about. There are people who are subject matter experts, but not well known. You're not really a leader unless someone actually you have a follower, or people know what you're thinking. You have to be relevant, and so on down the line. So this is my idea. It'd be fun on a different day to try to like label each intersection here on this Venn diagram. So I'm going to break this down with practical tactics and some new research on each. I'm going to start with this one, expert insights. Specifically for the content strategist, I'm going to give you 3 ways in which you can demonstrate expertise: original research, new ideas, and becoming authors. Written a couple of books. You just heard Robert say it. That is a form of big content that not everyone does. Good example. And here's the research. So we did a survey, 480 respondents. I collaborated with SurveyMonkey, thank you, Morgan and Colette, and Mantis Research, thank you, Michelle Lynn. A lot of us know Michelle. And we got people to answer questions about what makes good thought leaders. Expertise, number 1 by far. You've got to know what you're talking about. And then the question of what do you consider to be good thought leadership content? Educational, how-to content. Clearly, I understand there's an overlap between thought leadership and content marketing. That is some of the strongest correlation here, some of the strongest evidence in the survey. Identification of trends, research, reports. Now, I don't agree with this. I'll talk more about this. 71% of respondents said that purely educational content can be thought leadership. We can see lots of content online that's just like how-to stuff. How to put a baby seat in a car. That's educational. That is not thought leadership. I almost found one of those videos and showed it. Like, is this thought leadership? Obviously not. But it is educational. So I want to go deeper and suggest a few things. Original research. This, we know, has been part of the CMI content strategy forever. 60% of respondents said research reports are effective thought leadership content. Steve Rayson from BuzzSumo found a strong correlation between this and results in his analysis of 1 million articles, which terrifying, right? The stuff of nightmares. This hockey stick chart shows that most content gets nothing, like crickets, like no results. 75% of content nobody ever links to. 50% of content gets 2 or fewer Facebook interactions, which I think of as the author and their editor, or me and my mom. That's not really marketing traction. So what Steve concludes in the end, and this changed my thinking a lot back when I read this. This research isn't even recent. It's like probably 2015. If you want to create content that achieves a high level of both shares and links, we'll call that social and search, then you should concentrate on 2 things: opinion-forming authoritative content or well-researched and evidenced content. I'll paraphrase: strong opinion and original research. You can see how Steve is backing up my thesis that it's the overlap, Hinge found this to be true as well. High growth firms are 3 times as likely to publish original research. Why does this work? No dotted lines today, guys. I'm drawing straight lines to actual impact. Original research is link magnets. Why? Because it makes you the primary source. If I were we're not a content strategy company, but if I was, and I did audits of clients, I would ask this question of every client: is there any data on your website for which you are the primary source? In other words, show me a URL where you publish something where you were the first to publish that data. That is a criteria for success. Just look at the correlation in your own, or put any website into Semrush and look at the top linked to content, the pages for which the domain score is the highest. It's the pages that have original research. Why? Because you're in people's bibliography. They're citing you. 2 quick examples. What features are standard on websites? I don't know. Anyone know? No idea. Someone asked me this question. I didn't know. So I went to Alexa, downloaded a list of the top 50 marketing websites, gave it to a virtual assistant who looked at them against different criteria, sent me back a spreadsheet, and I published this chart showing what features are standard on marketing websites. The results, that little guy ranks number 2 for web design standards, above, and I'm almost embarrassed, right? Because they control the internet. I'm ranking above the World Wide Web Consortium. Ironic, maybe not. They're not actually paying any attention to SEO. They control the internet. Why do they care? They don't have to worry about SEO. Their page is not focused on the same keyword maybe or something else. Anyway, 160,000 visits over time, at least at the time I took this screenshot. It's more than that by now. And literally hundreds of websites have linked to that URL. Example 2, we're even better known for this. How long, panelists, you know, you've taken my survey, right? I talk about this because it's such an outlier. It's a simple example, and I teach it because it can be emulated. We'll talk about that. I don't know how long it takes to write a blog post. Anybody know? Nobody knows. So I did a survey. I got 1,000 bloggers to answer 15 questions. I keep publishing it again year after year. When you average the answers for duration spent per article, you can see the trend over time. It's 40% higher than it used to be. The average time it takes to write a blog post is now 3 hours. It's about 4 hours. This diagram is the source of that information, is the first place to publish that. This URL, it also shows the correlation between a lot of things. Time spent, but also frequency, working with editors, influencer collaboration, you just heard Lee, paid promotion, video, guest posting, and look at the last one, original research. Only 25% of our respondents reported doing original research, but 58% of those that did reported strong results. Only 27% of our total respondents report strong results from digital. 58%, most of those that do. So everybody does it, right? Nope, only 1 in 4 of our respondents do. That one content program, published year over year, the last few years published on the same URL, has attracted 2,000 links. Remember, 75% of content never gets linked to at all. This is one URL that's been linked to 2,000 times. What does that do? That makes my domain more authoritative. That makes all my sales pages higher, more likely to rank. That helps attract qualified visitors from those rankings to those pages for things like WordPress web design, Chicago e-commerce, Chicago mobile web design, and Chicago web design. $6 million in revenue, 40 full-time team members, $0 spent on advertising, never made a cold call. I'm showing you exactly how we drive tons of B2B lead gen demand. You can do it too. Anyone can do it. What do people in your industry frequently say but rarely support with evidence? What is the missing statistic in your field?
Everything.
There's so many, right? What do you guys think? Is this something, is it like a trick to this, or is it just that simple?
Yeah, I think it might be that simple.
And there's missing stats in every field, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like, so Zendesk, I don't know. What's the average response time for a support call? I don't know. You could make this up. Workshop. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
We actually do a lot of original research in that arena. We just published the CX trends report. We do it every year. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah, benchmarks.
Benchmark reports, white papers, all that goodness.
I think today Unbounce has published their latest version of the conversion rate benchmark report, showing the average conversion rates. You can just imagine how important that is to so many people's work. You're actually contributing to your field, right?
Yeah.
And it's a great point, because I think a lot of this research, if I think about it, if you're in a larger organization, it's very possible this research is already available. It's already been pursued by some other department, but the content department just doesn't know about it. I mean, if you have a scientific department, if you have an engineering, if you have R&D, your marketing department has probably gone out and through various consumer polls where you can come back and assemble that content, get the writers around it, and it's not that difficult. I think it's that connection between the departments that often prevents just that whole thinking, right?
Yeah, I think at the enterprise level, people publish research just for internal meetings, just to support a PowerPoint presentation. And then
that's what's making me think about this, because I think we're doing that. I think internally we're super stoked. We know if we had internal links, our SharePoint Online is probably going nuts, right? Yeah, I have to look into that actually.
Yeah, I mean, if I made a presentation that said how to get your competitors to link to you, you would think I was crazy. But then if I showed you to use this exact tactic, competitors link to each other all the time. Why? Because one of them published something that supports the sales message of another. You know, you're going to be in the intro to people's books. You're going to be in the first slide of people's presentations. Yeah. So this is, anyway. So speaking of books, my second thing about being an expert is to do the book. Very few people do this, but 32% of respondents said that it makes thought leadership. The trick here, also not mysterious, hopefully accessible, approachable for anyone. 100% of our attendees could do this. Think about, it's called your elbow, your lifetime body of work. Everything you publish forever is all, in my mind, it's like, this is like a theory, the unified theory of content. All topics in the universe can be fit into a giant fractal. And when you blog or create something or shoot a video or produce anything, it fits within that structure somehow. And if you just think in advance about how these things connect, then as you go about your normal job of producing content, right, your normal job of everything you've ever published, just keep it organized, plan it out in advance. I literally track it. I've used it as motivation. I track my lifetime body of work over time. Here you can see, my guest posting era, the increase in video production. So try to do this. It's an awesome intellectual challenge. Open a bottle of wine. I recommend pairing it with like a red, like a spicy, like a Syrah, and then write the outline of everything you know about a topic. The U-pedia, right? Like the Casiepedia, like she knows a million things. What if there was an outline, like on one piece of paper of everything she knows? Possible to do, right? At a high enough level, you pan out from that fractal, you can see it all from a distance. And then you blog into that. Just keep populate, like look for gaps, create the content. What have you done that's out of date? Update it, right? Fill it, and then that basically becomes the book. I did this. This was on my wall for like 6 months, Post-it notes. This is the structure of my brain at the time, which became an outline in a Google Doc, which became the first page inside a printed book. That's the book.
That book is great.
Thanks, Cal.
Very good book.
It was 70% pre-written blog content. When it got to that critical mass, I started to get up. The rest of it was written before dawn, like written from 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. every day, restructuring, organizing, filling in gaps. Now, the crazy thing about this, and people say like, oh, what's your budget? I heard the last session, the last question was about budget. This is content that makes money. This is the screenshot of a sales report of whatever the date range there was. This is last year. It pays for itself, at least. It more than pays for itself. So yeah, there's like the laws of physics reverse someday, and like brands that produce content at a certain level actually get paid to do marketing. People buy
Somebody
tickets.
should write a book about that.
I think it's called Content Inc., and I think it's on that table over there. Is that the one you were thinking of?
No, I was actually thinking of the book that I wrote, but
Killing.
fine. Joe is fine. I always get, Joe always gets the credit for this stuff I do, so that's fine.
Which one, Robert? Plug it. Is the one I'm thinking of?
Killing Marketing.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So this is not just an example of itself, but it's a playbook for doing this. So it's all out there.
Yeah,
surprisingly,
fantastic.
like, I don't know, what's the problem? Is it that people don't know what to do, or that people just don't do what they know they need to do? Because we're telling everyone.
I think it's the organization, right? I mean, you just went through, that was very succinct 3 slides of 6 links on your wall, and then from 4 to 7 a.m., and a little elbow grease, and then boom, you have a book. And well, it's probably not that easy for everybody, but I think the thought is there, and we take note. It's a challenge. There's 6 more months of the year, so
plenty of time. Yeah,
plenty.
The people who do this aren't weird people. They're just a little more structured. I think it's forethought is all I'm suggesting mostly. But yeah, the other impact of this, and by the way, elbow grease, that is so perfect. Someone write that. That's a lifetime body of work grease. These pages are link magnets. A book page is a link magnet. A book page makes you an author. The knowledge panel in Google, authors get Amazon pages. Like there's lots of marketing. I want to connect that dot back to SEO. So this is how you can see it connects to that. Okay, moving on. Thought leaders take a stand. Thought leaders plant flags. Thought leaders are for something, therefore they're against something. Thought leaders draw a line in the sand, and they have stronger opinions than the average marketer. So they embrace controversy. They might inspire you. They sound different, right? This was not as strong a finding in the research that I did with Mantis and SurveyMonkey. Interviews, opinion commentary, inspirational content were not as likely answers of what's effective thought leadership as the educational stuff, how to, trends, and research. But still, these are lots of people saying, yes, interviews and commentary make strong opinion or make thought leaders. Here again, 71% said that purely educational content can be thought leadership. I don't agree with my respondents on that. 53% said that strong opinion is essential for thought leadership, and 44% said that being controversial is nice to have. So I'm at an event. Someone gave me like this VIP pass. I felt very lucky to be there. I'm in this small room. It's couches, and Seth Godin walks in, and he starts teaching. It's a 30-minute presentation, 30-minute Q&A. I'm in the front row. Afterwards, I raise my hand. I start to ask a question with the words thought leader in it, and he gets a huge grin. He's excited to answer before I even finish the question. This is what he said. Thought leadership always creates tension. It's about making assertions. You have to be willing to be wrong. You can be certain that some people will disagree. I'm on Team Seth here. I think that this is a requirement for thought leadership. I'll give you some quick examples. This is not my strategy at all, by the way. I think my goal is to be a teacher, not a thought leader. I don't publish opinion. I just publish how-to stuff. That's my content strategy. But I'll give you some examples of those that do. 53% said strong opinion is important. You've heard of Basecamp? Everyone know Basecamp? Yeah, famous project.
Yeah.
So search for Basecamp. That's the branded query. That's a navigational query. Basecamp ranks for Basecamp. But look, there's a project management tool ranking that advertising on their name. So Jason Fried, one of the co-founders at Basecamp, goes to AdWords and writes and makes an ad on his own brand that says this: "We don't want to run this ad. We're the #1 result, but this site," he's complaining about Google, using Google, "lets companies advertise against us using our brand. So here we are, a small independent company forced to pay ransom to a giant tech company." Well, how does that feel? Then he goes and tweets that ad, and what happens? 13,000 people are talking about it. Yeah, he tweets his own ad, and everybody's up in arms, right? People get really worked up about it. The news picks it up, right? This is a PR coup. He's not trying to do SEO, but he's getting tens of thousands of mentions. And look at it, and look at the press pickup. This is what a massive press spike looks like when you're tracking links. So I know the guy. He's not trying to do SEO, but he's taking a stand, and the internet is rewarding him, right?
Yeah. He's a pretty good marketing guy, though.
He's a pretty good marketing guy and an author.
Yeah, exactly.
A great writer.
What he's doing.
I think this is, and this is also I think this is a great reason why within the organization, I think we tend to really focus on the SEO and the digital skills within the marketing department. And this is a really great example of how is your PR department tackling, and how is this starting to spread across the organization? Because we know that as the larger the organization gets, more and more people, you find, this happens all the time. You find a large organization, lots of different, maybe one blog, but lots of offshoots, a lot of different people publishing, and they might or they might not have an idea of the impact that they're making. But I think it's the time that we really start getting the message out between this thought leadership and all of the effort that we're putting out, and the effects on SEO, or just, these are great practical examples that throughout an entire organization start getting the wheel spinning, right? Because we've been hoarding all this goodness for so long in the marketing department. So that's a great. I mean, that's a tech company. So,
yeah. Right. B2B, boring category, massive splash.
Boring to boring. Not kidding.
You guys are pros, so you're probably way ahead of me on this. But a term I've been thinking about lately is remarkable. Is our content worthy of people remarking on it, like word of mouth? Is it word of mouth worthy? Is it memorable? Is it remarkable? These aren't things that show up in your analytics. So there's no way to run a tool that will tell you how remarkable your content is. But you will feel it. You'll see it. It is exactly what just happened in this example. I'll give you guys an even more obvious one that we all are very close to. This is now I think this is January 2014. you guys know this one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, everybody, probably half of the attendees, right? More. This is one of the most famous pieces of content in our category for a long time. Mark Schaefer wrote an article that said that content marketing is not sustainable. Attention spans and audience size is finite, but the amount of content being published keeps increasing. If you put this into tool, like it's been linked to more than 1,000 times. This is BuzzSumo just for the last year. It's been shared 4,600 times in the last year. That's 5 years after it went live. Unbelievable, right? Wow. Oh, no. This is the last year. 5 years later, it was 2,200 times. So anyway, that's a lot.
That is a lot.
For an old article?
And I think that makes a stand for, I mean, he has a stand on that. That article takes a stand. Agree or disagree. And I think that it's right. It goes back to that research. It's, you have to take a stand, be your brand, put yourself out there. Yeah.
I mean, this proves the point, right? This article is exactly it, because in this case, he took a stand on something that has actually in the results that you can actually see there has proven itself to be wrong. Mm-hmm. And so, and here we are, so 5 years later, and it's still a great piece. So the idea of taking a stand and being provocative is truly leading thought, right? You're leading the thought there.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I didn't think,
because you're launching discussion, right?
Right.
Exactly. It's remarkable.
It is remarkable.
Exactly.
So Andy,
do you think it's enough to just take a stand, or do you need to have data and reason behind it? Because there's so many people all over Twitter just taking stands on whatever there is. Well, but when stuff like this lasts this long, it's because it's valuable to the reader, and there's something there.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to say here. Is there are people on social media that are just like opinionated. They might just be an a-hole. Can I swear on this? You can take a stand. You can take a stand and be ignorant. You know, you might be up here in this area without any subject matter expertise. Mark is a legit expert, right? 5 books, best-selling, like big audience. He's a great example of this. But no, I think it's insufficient to just take a stand. But can you be a thought leader if you never take a stand? Is this thought leadership over here? The influential expert, the well-known expert. What if you never have an opinion, right? What if so I don't know. I'm really interested in this, and I'm glad to have this panel with you guys.
Well, they're multipliers of each other, right?
Yeah.
So when you start looking at those three aspects multiplied by each other, can you have an opinion that stands out that is, not multiplied by someone being well-known or being substantiated with evidence? Yes, you can, and it can occasionally go viral. We've seen those things, right, where really silly things go viral. Mm-hmm. Or have someone well-known say something that's not that thought-leading and or substantiated by evidence and will get popular because, quite frankly, it's leaning on the fact that the person is well-known. We all know that exists. Mm-hmm. All the way around, right? So it's really the balance of those three things that truly make things stand the test of time.
Mm-hmm.
And do you guys know of any blowback that Mark got for this? I mean, there was a strong negative response to it as well, wasn't there?
Well, I'm on record as disagreeing with it. I mean, he and I had a fun discussion on his blog about why I disagreed with his main point. Doesn't mean that I just disagreed with the argument that he was making. Doesn't mean that I'm right. But it absolutely. I think there were some people who, it's the internet, and he got some, ad hominem attacks and stuff like that. But I think for the most part, most people, I'm certainly in the minority, really resonated with what he was talking about. And I think I think it was both the balance of people who disagreed with him as well as the people who it really resonated with that sort of elevates this to a discussion that is worth having, right? That's what elevates something to a discussion that's worth having, is if there are, we can simultaneously hold both of those contending thoughts in our head at the same time.
Yeah. That's another Seth Godin point. He says the point of your content is to give your audience something to talk about.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
And it's thought leading, right? It's leading thought, right? You know, and it doesn't, you know, I mean, I made a little bit of a snarky comment, but the point is that in that it is leading thought, it is thought leadership. It really doesn't matter existentially whether it's right or wrong. It just means that I'm taking a stand, I'm substantiating it with evidence, and I have a well-known enough personality to be able to bring it forward into the world.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's and we all love Mark, if you know the guy, who, by the way, was COVID positive and recovered. Mark's doing well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oof.
yeah, amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, and he leads a lot of great discussions. I mean, I think really when it comes
Absolutely.
to thought leadership and leading thought, and I love the way you position that, Robert. I think that's a great way to think of it. And I think for all of the people who put thought leader in their Twitter profile or wherever, I think if they spin it around and say, am I leading thought, and am I truly launching these discussions that open up, you know, debate, and it can be reasonable, it can be a bit contentious, but it's really getting people to think. Then you could put that probably. Right.
There are more than 1 million people on LinkedIn with thought leader in their headline.
That's just nuts.
How about this question? Is it, and we've got enough time, I hope, to digress a tiny bit. Can one call themselves a thought leader, or should that be reserved as a label attributed to a person by someone else?
Yeah, okay. I think it should be attributed by someone else. That's
Yeah.
But I because I just don't, I mean, who are we saying? I lead my own thoughts every day.
To the fridge. Yeah.
And to your point, so many people put that on their profiles.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean? I don't know. If
I mean,
someone
I
else calls you that, then that's something.
And I think this is great right here. I mean, if you have the data behind it, and you have, I mean, there are, and indeed there are thought leaders in different industries, very niche. Maybe they haven't come to full bloom yet. It's true, but I think for the most part, somewhere you're going to be cited and pointed to, and then it's earned, but it's not. I'm not sure it's a label that we give ourselves.
I agree. Although when you go back to the definition, there are people who really just define thought leadership as content marketer almost. So I have friends who call themselves thought leaders, or I turn brands into thought leaders, but they're mostly talking about content marketing when you dig in. You know, it's like we help people publish how-to articles and advice, you know.
But is that enough?
Right.
I'm saying no, but the world's got lots of room for lots of, I'm not taking a strong stand on it, basically. I'm gonna go to this slide. Here's my framework for everybody. To ask yourself, what do you believe that most people would disagree with? Another one is, what do you think will happen in the future that most people think is unlikely? This is a fun one. This takes guts. It's hard to do. It doesn't scale well. Difficult. What questions are people in your industry afraid to answer? If that stops you, and you feel like your brand or your team or your leadership in your company, your executives don't have the guts to kind of take a strong stand on something. Seth also talked about this. He said, Procter & Gamble has no opinions. They don't care. There's no beliefs there. They believe in soap, like whatever. But as a marketer, I think that it's important to remember that people have strong opinions about very mundane things, and not everything you take a stand on has to be like a major issue of social change or justice or human rights, or, you know. The Oxford comma is one that if you bring up at a bar, like, people will fight you over it. The Curb Your Enthusiasm / Seinfeld model is to trigger emotion from very mundane topics. So anyway, there are things that you might, believe.
Well,
that
it's it gets down to, it's one of the things that we talk a lot about in our workshops in terms of storytelling, which is having a point of view, right? Having a point of view about something. And that point of view doesn't have to be, some earth-shattering philosophy or something. It can be something very simple. One of the examples I use is, Kraft Food and Family magazine and their online recipes database. It's just a database of recipes is all it is. But if you go, what they do is they've put a very specific lens over the top of that, which is full family meal solutions that you can deliver in 15 minutes or less. That's a point of view.
Yeah.
I'm going to deliver you a full family meal solution in 15 minutes or less. So you're not going to see any complicated recipes there. You're not going to see any, 5-hour, huge, haute cuisine, sort of things. That's their point of view, is to be able to deliver this very specific thing. And that in and of itself is, quite frankly, a leading point of view. But it's, it's not earth shattering Zen like philosophy or anything.
Yeah.
I want to try one on. Oh, I'm sorry.
No. I was just, it made me think of what the slide before about, or maybe it's a couple slides before, but about, oh no, it's okay. You don't have to find it. Now I don't know where it was. But, oh no. Yeah, it was in this area of, what would people in your industry say or disagree with?
Oh, yeah.
We have to think about that, replace industry with company. What questions in your company are you afraid to ask and put out there? And that comes to point of view, because I think if we talk about thought leadership, and if we talk about the merging or the bringing together of the personal brand within the organization, and all of the elements come together, if the management isn't behind it, and if you have a wimpy, soggy, meek management who they're just maybe more comfortable with the educational content, but it probably doesn't rank that well either, because there's not a point of view. We have to find a way to help management understand it's okay to have a voice, right? And it's okay, because I think that's really, and the slide really hit it home for me. It's how do we kind of shore up to management and let them know that it's all right. We're not going to, we're not going to break the internet. We're not going to get, like bad PR just because we have a voice on someone and a perspective. And talking about the recipes, I think that's a great way to put it. They have their own lens, they have their viewpoint, and within the organization, I think that has to really be supported as well from the management. Like, let's take that viewpoint and find that voice and move it forward. Otherwise, it all stays very, very educational and bland, and no one's linking to it, right? It's that.
Yeah, I agree. I actually just wrote an article about a month ago for Zendesk on 3 ways that retailers can get through COVID, essentially. Because I came from retail. I was a copy manager with American Girl on the retail side for a long, long time. So I'm pretty deeply involved with retail industry, and you guys probably know all about the retail apocalypse of a couple of years ago when Toys R Us shut down and all that badness. But so the reason I share that story is because it was, it took a couple of somewhat controversial stands, but it was based with speaking to analysts, research behind it, all the trends that are coming, such as having like a hybrid online offline experience and being able to manage your supply chain, all that stuff. But it's one of those things that probably not everyone would agree with. Wanting their just regular bricks and mortar store to be around forever. Some of them may not come out of it. Some of them will. But we got just tons of organic traffic for that article.
I was going to ask.
Lots and lots. And so obviously it hit a nerve. But yeah, you have to be willing to be able to put things like that out, and your management and your upper leadership has to be okay with you doing it as well.
Yeah, that was Seth Godin said that as well. He said, if your leadership isn't willing to take a stand, then you should just be quiet. Those were
and then why are you publishing at all if you're
you just isn't the op-ed section of the newspaper the most fun to read? Like I go straight to it. Okay, I'm going to keep going, but we can come back to that. Thought leaders have personal brands. Tree falls in the woods if no one hears it, right? You have to have an audience. You have to have a brand. You have to have a platform to some extent. But does it mean social media following or just any media presence? Being cited by others lends you credibility, grows your brand. Being influential generally. So we asked the question, do thought leaders need to have a large social following? 77% said no. Social media does not necessarily correlate with thought leadership. Obviously, some of the most influential people in the world are not active on social media. And then the question, do thought leaders need to have active followers to discuss and share their ideas? Yes. So this suggests that you need a platform. You probably need a media platform, but not necessarily social media. This part really gets me. Can a brand be a thought leader? 70% said yes. I'm conflicted. I'm not sure I agree. I don't think a brand has a thought. Brands don't have thought. So I disagree with this.
I agree with it, Andy.
You agree with it?
I do. And I think it's kind of a hybrid thing. Again, like you have to have a leader that's really willing to invest in whatever that opinion is. My example that I always point to is Patagonia. So they are just really out front on environmental activism. If you look at their website, there's just tons of content. But it permeates through everything they do, including how they make their pieces, the fact that they allow recycling, they close their stores on Black Friday. So yes, but it takes a sustained effort. It can't just be like a flash in the pan. I'm going to be this thing today. And then when you get some blowback, you decide to drop it.
That's a good example. That's a certified B corporation. That's a walk the talk company. Maybe it's the exception that proves the rule. I'm still not sure a brand can be a thought leader. What about outsourced? Does the quality of thought leadership impacted if it's ghost written? About a 50-50 answer there. Yes, no. Do you guys think that thought leadership content can be delegated, or can you delegate your voice, or are you really just delegating a task?
I think you could do it. There's lots of ghostwriters who make that their entire career.
That's true.
So
yeah, that's a definition of execution, right? It's how is it getting executed, right? Can you have someone who, a CEO or a branded person execute the written part of a book? Of course you can. If it reflects their thoughts, then the execution, it begs the question of editing, right? So if thought leadership impacts ghostwriting, well, then so does editing, and so at what point does, how many, it's one of those math questions, like how many twigs until you have a pile, right? It's how much editing until it becomes the other work instead of yours, right?
I find this slide really interesting. I think it's debatable. I think it's controversial in a way. I struggle with it myself. I mean, you can't outsource your thinking. So you can outsource tasks. Yeah.
You can outsource the writing. No, I mean, talking to the tape recorder, right? Blah 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 blah.
Sure.
Someone transcribes, firms it up, and boom, it's your thoughts written. But it's still it's coming from a person. And in Patagonia, we know it's Yvonne. It's the CEO. I mean, he's just been so passionate about this forever. So again, I think if I think about that Venn diagram, it's the person. It's the all three are there, and that is a special. I think it's a great example of a brand that is really leading the way, right? It's leading thought, and it's really pointing direction. They've kind of replaced the promotion and the price with other emotional triggers. I mean, they're doing it all right. It's incredible. So I think that we can all. Yeah, I mean, I would like to be the Patagonia. Everyone should kind of want to be the Patagonia of their industry, really. I mean,
it's so ironic to me.
Andy, it's funny that at the heart of both of these questions is one, and it's probably best suited for one of your Syrahs or something that we should probably talk open about now.
No kidding.
The question is, can thought leadership be collaborative, right? Which
that's cool. Yeah.
So if we have a collaborative idea of multiple people contributing to thoughts, is it that we have to list ourselves individually, or can we list ourselves as a collective, which of course would be a brand of kinds, and then how much of that is the individual's contribution and how much of it is ghostwritten?
Well, I'll tell you, this research was a collaboration with Michelle Lynn and Morgan Molnar. It was with Mantis
and guess
Research.
who's going to get the credit for it?
Right. I keep mentioning that.
Andy Crestodina.
They published their own angles on their own platforms, and we all promoted each other. It was a strategy. It was strategic.
But it's good. It's
yeah.
super interesting. And Robert, didn't you and Joe do that with your podcast?
Yeah. Right.
Do what?
The
P&R.
collaborative thought leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, I'm
super
clearly
interesting.
the smarter of the two, but
Of course.
R&D.
but absolutely, it is a collaborative.
Yeah.
You know, he and I, it would not be the same where it's why we decided when we did decide to fold the show for a while Joe took his sabbatical, why we decided to end it, because without the two of us there, it's just not the same. It's the chemistry, the collaboration that makes that thing, if it is at all worth listening to.
It is.
So that's interesting. So for the next survey, Andy can put in for research, collaborative thought leadership.
Yeah.
Let's do it together.
Let's.
Speaking of SEO, this is what personal SEO looks like for a personal brand. Look at what Google does for this person, right? There is the platform, the social content, more of the platform, the knowledge panel, the type of entity, right? He's an author, the books. Did Mark have to do any of this? Mark probably has never searched for himself. Look what he gets. Yeah, videos. People also, he hasn't. By the way, if you get a knowledge panel, please click to claim the knowledge panel. There's not that much you can do with it, but it at least makes this little thing go away. So anyway, yeah, and by the way, bio pages are link magnets. So there again, having a page on your site that you can link back to. And I do link reclamation, if you're familiar. Anytime someone links to one of your social bios from their content, reach out to them and ask them to change that link to go back to your site. Link reclamation for converting links to social profiles into links to personal or to company profile pages is a very easy link win with an SEO benefit. Which brings us to the contribution to other sites. 32% of respondents said that quotes in the media make effective thought leadership. Here's my strategy for that. Hey, so you've been collaborative in exactly the way Robert and Kelly and Erin and Casie were all just talking about. So now that comes back, right? Whatever you give the universe, somehow some of it reflects back on you. Now you get this email. If you're doing it well, if you're making friends, if you're giving and showing love and linking to and mentioning and recommending and giving endorsements to other people, they will do the same for you eventually. So you get this email. We all get this email sometimes. Hey, would you like to contribute to my post? The next thing that you should do is go back and look at, I keep mine in a list. This is the tab. This is literally a screenshot of how I run my content, the Google Docs version of my brain here. These are all pages that would benefit from a link. These are all articles for which the search ranking is declining a little bit, or pages that rank but don't rank that high yet. These are key phrases for which the associated article ranks high on page 2. These are pages that need a little love. Track them. And then when you get the opportunity, jump on it. So this guy reaches out. I'm using a picture of my friend Kyle. Kyle reaches out and says, would you like to contribute to my post? I look at this list. Oh yeah, that one. Link, link, nudge, nudge. That could use a little love. Sure, how about something on that topic? Sounds great, buddy. So then I submit my contribution to him. This is not, I don't always teach this. This is one we can just keep between us, right? The 5 of us and the 5,700 people on this webinar, let's just not tell anyone else. We'll keep it just in that little group.
You know, that's an SEO trick, Andy, right?
To say don't share or to
like ego bait. Oh,
yeah.
No, that's a good one. Yeah.
Well, I honestly did this for years before even talking about it, but I do this around 100 times a year, and it's very, very powerful because it's so targeted. You're taking advantage, you're engineering the outcome, the most important thing you're looking for. So my contribution that links back to that article includes a link back, includes the reference to the piece, right? So now when the piece goes live, you go back and you look for that reference. It links back to your piece. This is where images really help, by the way. If your content includes images and diagrams, which is natural if it's original research, like this is literally a citation of the research I did. So then I'm basically suggesting that you guys all do image source link building. I'm not sure if that's even a thing. Let's call it a thing. You're referencing your content using diagrams where the citation is the image source link. If you look for the anchor text of image source in backlinks to the orbitmedia.com website, you'll see that there's hundreds of them. I've been doing this a long time. And then basically you go track that and say, yep, I want to link to that piece. Now that piece goes live. I'm going to say right now that it's internet etiquette to share. If you're included in anything, share. You should really be, just like we all shared this event we're part of. I just put it on a list called promotables. And then I have a VA or a social media, I have a helper who uses this training doc. You know, it's a great day when you create a document that shares a process that you don't have to do anymore. I have content that's never been published, but that saves me like 6 hours a month. That's valuable content. It's the training document on how to do social media promotion for things at Orbit. Anyway, so then the piece goes live. You share, right? Okay, break it down. Find the articles on your site that need a little love. They ranked and the rank is declining. They almost rank high and would benefit from a tiny boost. They have a higher conversion rate than other articles. Track them. When the opportunity comes, provide a quote that references that article if at all possible. Article goes live. Check the link, thank the author, promote on social media. Okay, moving right along. I highly recommend that. It sounds like work. It's actually the most targeted, effective, and fastest, easiest way to maximize the value of any contribution you have.
Andy, I just have a quick question to that, and I'll make it fast so you can go on.
No, sure.
This is a great point. We're talking so much about SEO. We know that there's the focus is so often on the writing. What are you seeing in terms of resources dedicated to SEO? Because I think you know, a lot of the work that you go through, if someone's saying like, hey, this is important, but who's doing this in the organization, right?
Well, this would be.
I mean, anyone to chip in, because I think that it's an area that it's kind of very often like, oh yeah, we need to do that. Oh, you're the writer. Can you check that out? And while they're attuned, that's a job.
Yep.
Right.
PR is good for this one, but PR that doesn't understand SEO is going to get a fraction of the benefit of PR plus SEO.
Yeah.
So when let's say there's a high profile person at a company gets solicited to contribute to a piece of content. If they share that with someone who understands links and can check on the authority of of another site and knows what your analytics look like, you'll get like 100x the value of that tiny contribution. It's just, but yeah, PR. I mean, if you have anyone doing influencer marketing, if you have anyone doing SEO, if you have anyone doing PR that understands these things, there's no reason you couldn't go through this and just reference your own content in a way that would drive the greatest benefit. But it's a great question. It depends, probably. But I'd say PR.
Hey, Andy, we have about 5 minutes left here. And I want to make sure, I know that you still have quite a bit here. There's too much good stuff. As always.
Too many talking to panelists.
I know, you guys are so great. I'm going to leave it up to y'all on how you want to do it. I love the format that, you guys have been just conversing through. I think you've addressed all the questions that have come in. So, really just if there's anything specific you want to call out, Andy, that you have left, like maybe we take that approach.
Yeah, I'm going to do another 60 seconds, and then let's just hear from the panelists on their bigger perspective. If you combine all of the answers of the research and take the things that the majority of respondents said are requirements, are essential qualities, you get this definition for thought leadership. You must clearly communicate challenging new ideas, back them up with data, and have a POV, right? Have a strong point of view. If you take the next most popular answers, the things that the respondents, 800 or whatever, however many people said were nice to have qualities, then you add on to that definition this, which is, it doesn't hurt if you're also a likable person who publishes consistently and doesn't shy away from controversy. So that was what I promised at the beginning. So we got to the very end. That's basically it. I'm going to tab out. I can finally see your faces. Stop share. Anything to add from anyone?
Well, there was a question, and I think this kind of goes back to the whole idea of like thought leadership. And Erin, maybe this is for you, because the question is really tied to the writers. What are the types of things that, if you are a writer and you're ghost writing for someone else, what are the things you need to be asking?
That's a really great question. And yes, I am a writer. I have a really long writing background. So this is the kind of tips and tricks I've learned over my 20 years of experience in the field the hard way sometimes. You need to look for really reputable experts to be able to reach out to. So you want to find, the kind of people that Andy was talking about. Authors, professors are really great to talk to because they love to talk about their subject areas, and also original research. So if you're writing an article about something and you find like a New York Times piece, let's say, that references it, what you want to do is go and actually find that research and then read it and see if it actually substantiates what was said, because sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes you can even talk to the original researcher. So it's a lot of like investigative journalism in a way. And that's what takes the time to write a good piece. But when you can do it, it pays off with, building credibility and all that SEO goodness.
Here's one. What do you think that everyone should want to be a thought leader? I'll throw this out there for anyone, but do you think everyone should be a thought leader?
That's a great one.
47% said yes. I didn't show that slide. It was at the end. We're sharing the slides. You guys have all the slides. 47% of the respondents said yes, they personally strive to be a thought leader.
Wow.
I think I love that data point.
I'm a practice leader. So I execute what the thought leaders are saying. I don't feel the need to be a thought leader, or and I do execution. So for me, I guess at some point that rolls into your own, maybe you become a thought leader in execution. I don't know, but I think there's a place for both. I think it's, we need people to also like be the disciples, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I'm your disciple.
Yeah,
Robert?
I'm with you. All right, so I think how we can wrap this up is I'll leave it to each of you to sign yourself off in however way you want. Tell people where they can find you if there's anything you want to promote. If it's your own thought leadership, feel free. Erin, why don't we start with you, and then we'll go around the group here.
Sure. Well, definitely everyone take a look at the Zendesk library. It's at zendesk.com. You'll see a lot of our awesome pieces there. And you can follow me on Twitter at Erin Hueffner. I'm on LinkedIn. Give me a shout out. Love to make new connections.
Great. Kelly?
Yeah. So you can find me on Twitter, Katie Hungerford. I've just started with this brand Sunstar, and we're rebuilding kind of an 80-year-old company, their digital ecosystem and brand presence from the ground up, starting with content. So it's exciting. You can follow us at sunstargum.com or professionalsunstargum.com and follow our journey, see how we're doing. And yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, Kelly Hungerford. I would love to connect. I love to share. I love to talk.
Awesome. Robert?
Sure. So if you didn't like anything I had to say today, you can find me at joepolizzi.com, where you can leave all sorts of nasty comments. But if you enjoyed any of this today, thank you all, by the way, for joining today. Thank you. Really, I appreciate it. Thank you to our hosts, of course. Thank you to Andy for hosting this today. It's been wonderful. And of course, we're at contentadvisory.net if you want to read any of our stuff on content operations, content strategy, and content marketing.
Awesome. And I'm also going to say my goodbyes. So this is the end of my shift. I'm turning it over to Andy. Thank you all so much. This was a great panel to end on. Honestly, it was so entertaining. For viewers, if you're just tuning in, I highly, highly suggest you catch this one later. I love the format. You guys are all just so fantastic, so smart. Andy, thank you so much. And it's your show now.
Thank you, Casie. Where can people find you?
Thanks, Andy.
Oh, yeah. You can find me Casie G on Twitter or over at comarketing.com.
Awesome. Thank you guys all for
everybody.
joining us.
Yes, thank you.
So great.
Thank you.
So much fun. Big love.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, coming up next, Kevin Phillips is in the house. Ashley's here.